The vast international waters of Lake Huron. From rugged islands straddling an invisible marine boundary to picturesque communities lining the shores of the world's third largest lake, a technological innovation connecting Lake Huron to the world.
Once the Sault Ste. Marie Canal was built in 1895, a boat could theoretically get from the Atlantic Ocean all the way to the tip of Lake Superior.
Centuries-old pictographs revealing early Great Lakes civilization.
There's been many different interpretations for what these mean. Really only the artists and the spirits know for sure.
And piping down the sun in Canada's prettiest town.
From the first week in July to the last week in August. It's a really beautiful sunset.
Now, we trace the secrets of the world's longest undefended border. More than 6,000 kilometers of rugged American frontier. Canada, over the edge. The southeastern shoreline of Lake Superior is a rugged natural gem. This barren stretch of Great Lakes landscape is lined by dense forests and rock faces, the heart of the Canadian Shield. It is a landscape that has been recorded throughout history by early explorers trekking west and by inspired artists, including the Canadian School of Painters known as the Group of Seven. At the southern extremity of this massive body of water, Lake Superior Provincial Park is a protected stretch of the world's largest freshwater lake. The park is home to stunning natural beauty and cultural secrets of the earliest inhabitants along these shores.
My name is Carol Dersh. I'm the Natural Heritage Education Leader here at Lake Superior Provincial Park. Here we're located at Agawa Bay, which is about 140 kilometers north of Sault Ste. Marie, which is at the international boundary between Michigan and Ontario. Lake Superior Provincial Park was set aside in 1944. So it's one of Ontario's oldest and largest provincial parks. So at that time, only the 7th provincial park in Ontario. We now have 334 provincial parks. And the reason it was set aside, at that time there was no highway or road going through the park, but the people of the Sault Ste. Marie, Algoma area wanted to see a portion of the Lake Superior shoreline protected, mostly for its scenic beauty and recreational values.
Lake Superior Provincial Park is known throughout the region, a destination for those looking to experience the awe of the Canadian Shield.
This is a very diverse area geologically. So landforms, some of the oldest rocks in the Canadian Shield are found at the north end of the park that were originally volcanic rocks that have been slightly metamorphosed. Down here at the south end of the park, we're looking at the roots of an ancient mountain range that go back about 2.5 billion years.
And the shores of Lake Superior also hold incredible cultural stories. The park's mysterious Agawa Rock pictographs were created by early Ojibwe residents more than a century ago.
This is probably one of the most visited pictograph sites in all of the Canadian Shield. In Ontario, Quebec, Manitoba, there's been probably 400 different sites identified. And it's really only been since the late 50s that a lot of them were documented. They were known to the local people, but not really known the significance of them.
To get a close-up view, visitors must carefully cross this narrow rock face with the Lake Superior shoreline meters below.
This image is very iconic of this site and perhaps one of the most unusual figures here. This one's believed to be the Mishipashu, or the spirit of Lake Superior, and certainly a very important figure, considering that the lake was the travel route and very important for the First Nations people, for travel, for fishing. They're very difficult to date. The estimate is at least 160 years old. We can trace references back to that, and certainly it's hard to imagine anything that could be so enduring, considering the waves and the sun, the ice in the wintertime. The paint was made, it's believed, out of a rock, a hematite rock that's high in iron. It's certainly remarkable that anything could weather what Superior can throw its way.
Long after the discovery of these pictographs, visitors continue to congregate, marveling at the mysterious preserved rock art.
Some people wonder why they were painted here. Certainly this site was fairly close to a summer encampment, but also it has the elements of the very powerful elements here of the sky, meeting with the land, meeting with the underwater, and these portals or cracks into the underworld. There's been many different interpretations for what these mean. Really only the artist and the spirits know for sure.
Heading southeast, we enter Sault Ste. Marie's historic navigation lock and explore the remote international islands of Lake Huron. "100 kilometers south of Lake Superior Provincial Park, we leave Lake Superior behind. Here, we follow the contours of the St. Mary's River, en route to the industrial cities of Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and Lake Huron beyond. These two Saults were originally one until 1817, when the United States United Kingdom Boundary Commission determined the new international border would be marked by the St. Mary's River. Many believe the word Sault is translated from early French, meaning jump, a reference to the change in water elevation and rapids that once made the St. Mary's River a treacherous route. And just east of the international bridge that connects Canada and America, the Sault Ste. Marie Canal National Historic Site marks a technological achievement that changed maritime transport forever.
My name is Jeanette Cowan. I'm the acting site manager, visitor experience manager for the Sault Ste. Marie Canal. The Sault Ste. Marie Canal is located on the St. Mary's River. The St. Mary's River joins Lake Huron to Lake Superior. The river is 120 kilometers long, and in this specific area right here, we have a drop in elevation of about 6.4 meters, and that creates quite a turbulent rapid.
These rapids were an obstacle for generations. Early First Nations travelers and French voyageurs were forced to portage around the rapids until an increase in trade required a more efficient solution.
Later on, the Northwest Fur Trade Company that was located just to the northeast of this area built a small canoe lock, and that was good for a while. And then the next development in passage through this area would be the U.S. lock in 1855. That was good for everyone for a while.
But because of the unique international divide and an international maritime incident, the American lock would not be enough. Canada needed its own marine thoroughfare.
So where we're located here on the St. Mary's River, we have Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, right across the river from us. The border runs straight through the middle of the river, and relations were fairly good between the two sides until 1870, when we had what we call the Chikora incident, where a Canadian vessel that was en route to Manitoba to help quell the Red River Rebellion there was denied passage through the lock, held up for several days. The troops and all the military supplies had to be portaged around the lock, so it necessitated the need for a lock on the Canadian side.
More than a century later, many of the Canadian lock's original buildings still stand. Inside the powerhouse, Jeanette Cowan demonstrates the machinery and technology that is preserved here.
Here on the ground floor of the powerhouse is where the water entered into the turbines. And once the water got moving the turbines, it moved a system of pulleys, which were attached by belts, and attached to another system of pulleys on the second floor, which connected to generators. And that's where the electricity was produced in the powerhouse. In addition to the electricity production that went on in the powerhouse, the unwatering pumps were also located in this building. And the unwatering pumps were designed to empty all the water out of the lock in case repairs needed to be done after the shipping season. So these unwatering pumps were fed the same way by water coming from the upper reaches of the canal into a turbine, which started the whole system moving. The centrifugal pumps that actually pump the water out of the lock are located about 40 feet down below us here underneath the floor of the building. So these are the set of pulleys that would run with their belts back downstairs to transfer the power down to the unwatering pumps on the lower floor. This was the clutch that could engage or disengage the equipment. And then there was a brake as well. As the equipment was slowing down, the brake could be pulled and the equipment could be stopped.
Throughout the 20th century, the Canadian lock provided passage to vessels of all types. Today, it serves recreational craft, linking two of the world's greatest lakes.
The lock works today much the same as it did when it first opened in the late 1800s. It uses a system of valves to empty and fill the lock, and the water enters or leaves the lock purely by gravity. So a valve is opened to let water into the lock from the upper reaches of the Lake Superior end of the lock chamber, and the valves are opened at the lower end in order to empty the water out into Lake Huron if they're wanting to lower a boat to that level.
When it opened in 1895, the Canadian lock was the longest on Earth, marking a new chapter in exploration and transportation in the New World.
The Sault Ste. Marie Canal, when it was built, it completed what we call the All-Canadian Waterway, which connected all the Great Lakes all the way out through the St. Lawrence River. So once the Sault Ste. Marie Canal was built in 1895, a boat could theoretically get from the Atlantic Ocean all the way to the tip of Lake Superior.
Heading southeast, we reach Lake Huron and the scattered islands lining the horizon. This is historic St. Joseph Island, the second largest Canadian island on the Great Lakes. At the island's southern tip, stone foundations mark the last remnants of Fort St. Joseph. It was a British outpost built in 1797 in response to fears of American expansion in the upper Great Lakes region. And it was here that the first battle in the War of 1812 was launched. On July 17th of that year, Fort St. Joseph's commander led a military force south to Michigan's Mackinac Island, occupying the American fort there. 2 years later, in 1814, American forces arrived at Fort St. Joseph and burned it to the ground. Further, we soar high above Drummond Island. It is American territory, but named after Gordon Drummond, a Canadian-born military officer and Lieutenant Governor of Canada. Next, beyond False Detour Channel, Cockburn Island lies in Canadian territory. This remote island measures just over 170 square kilometers, the least populated incorporated municipality in Canada, home to 0 permanent residents. Further east, we reach the western tip of Manitoulin Island. Here, industrial operations dominate the shoreline. Millions of tons of dolomite are extracted here, used in concrete and road construction. It is one of the largest quarries in Canada. Further, the beauty of Manitoulin Island is revealed. At 2,766 square kilometers, it holds a unique distinction as the largest lake island in the world. It is a mix of splendid scenery and small communities, with archaeological discoveries documenting human activity for tens of thousands of years. Manitoulin Island is also home to Manitou Lake, with an equally unique distinction. The world's largest lake on an island in a lake. Manitoulin Island is also home to the Niagara Escarpment, a ridge of land running from Niagara Falls to Ontario's Bruce Peninsula, Michigan's Upper Peninsula, into Wisconsin and beyond. From Manitoulin Island, we cross the waters of Georgian Bay, en route to Ontario's spectacular Bruce Peninsula. On the south shore of Lake Huron's Manitoulin Island, South Baymouth marks the departure point for Ontario's Bruce Peninsula. Located 40 kilometers to the southeast, where Lake Huron meets Georgian Bay. It is a popular voyage by air or by sea. Saving more than 6 hours of commute around Georgian Bay. Today, the water route is covered by the MS Chichimon ferry, connecting South Baymouth and Tobermory from May to October. The Chichimon is more than 100 meters long, with a capacity of 638 passengers and 143 cars. The Chichimon has been running this route since 1974, when it took over from one of Lake Huron's most historic vessels, the MS Norgoma. the Norgoma was a fixture on the waters of Lake Huron, and today, a dedicated team of caretakers are restoring her to her former glory.
My name is Jerry Masson. I'm with the ship Norgoma. In 1950, when the Norgoma was first built, the Norgoma sailed across Georgian Bay from South Bay mouth to Tobermory. That was her usual route.
But as the route's popularity increased, the Norgoma was replaced by the larger Chichimon. The Norgoma's next assignment would be as a supply line to the remote communities of Lake Huron.
The ship Norgoma was eventually brought up to the Sioux Run and serviced all the different little towns on her way up and back again. On the way up, she would carry farm implements, tractors, cattle, whatever the farmers ordered, whatever the people in the general stores ordered, that would be at their dock or their doorstep on the way to the Sioux. And her return run would be probably newsprint and, of course, mail, and full of passengers. They just love to sail the waters, and who wouldn't like a trip from Sault Ste. Marie down to the Georgian Bay area?
Today, the Norgoma rests in Sault Ste. Marie at the St. Mary's River Marine Heritage Center.
These stairs are primarily for the working crew that tied up the boat, and also for the engineer crew. This was a way of getting up to the different levels on the boat without interfering with the normal passenger travel. These stairs are kind of narrow.
On board, Jerry Masson helps maintain this historic symbol of the Great Lakes. Every nook and cranny gets his attention as he brings the era of Great Lakes passenger travel to life.
Here we have the dining room. The dining room could sit 50 people, and the order of the day was black bow ties, white shirts. Everybody was dressed for the occasion. We had 2 stewardesses on board to help with the paying customers. And there was 2 sittings in the dining room for breakfast and supper. Think of it as you're sailing down the St. Mary's River, in behind Bruce Mines, Thessalon, and all the little stops in there, cruising along on a tour ship that perhaps you might be on there for a day and a half or 2 days. And the beauty of it is that on board the ship is that you get to experience all the things that are going on in the ship. You know, as sitting down for a dining room experience, or sleeping overnight. It's just the elegance.
And high above the dining room, timeless gems adorn the wheelhouse of this historic vessel.
This is our wheelhouse on the Norgoma. This is the main steering wheel. We do have another auxiliary steering wheel in the stern of the ship, down in the lower level, in case this one breaks. So we always have a backup. This would be your telegraph here. Maintains the speed and forward, reverse, full. Over here we have the ship's compass. Compass gives us our steering heading, where we're going. Working on the Norgoma is a great opportunity for me. I get to see all about the boat. I get to work on it. I get to direct it. I'm part of the ship. Part of my job here is to keep everything moving, keep the restoration going, keeping the volunteers working, restoring it. There's a real passion here for most people. You don't realize it until you start working a while, and then it kind of grows on you. You feel like you want to be part of the movement here. And that in itself holds you to the job.
"30 kilometers east of Manitoulin Island, we approach the shores of picturesque Cove Island. Cove Island marks the entrance to Georgian Bay and is home to a light station that has been guiding mariners for more than 150 years. With a free trade agreement signed between Canada and the U.S. in 1854 and the opening of the Sault Ste. Marie Canal, safe navigation became key along these rocky shores. Construction began on the Cove Island Light in 1855, and it began operations 3 years later. The light rises 26 meters, its style described as one of the Great Lakes' imperial towers. And it lies in the heart of one of Canada's most scenic and protected waterways.
My name is Tony Edwards, and we are in Fathom 5 National Marine Park. Fathom 5 National Marine Park was established in 1971, first as a provincial park and then a federal park in 1987. And it was the first national marine park in Canada.
Fathom 5 National Marine Park helps preserve the shipwrecks, light stations, and geological features adorning these islands.
The first marine park takes in 22 islands and 22 shipwrecks. People come from all over the world to dive these shipwrecks. And they range from very shallow, where you can snorkel them or a novice diver can enjoy them, right down to 150 feet.
From high above, one island in particular stands out.
The one just out in behind me is Flowerpot Island. Flowerpot Island is the only island in the marine park that allows camping and hiking, and it has a lighthouse station, and it's well known for the sea stacks or the lake stacks that you see carved out of the limestone by wave action over millions of years. It's made up of 4 major reefs complexes, and these complexes were very, very strong, which resisted a lot of the ice action which the glaciers had an effect on. And therefore, they still remain to this day in very pristine condition.
Next, we explore millions of years of history at Bruce Peninsula National Park, and we reveal the sandy beaches lining Lake Huron's eastern shoreline. 40 kilometers southeast of Manitoulin Island, we reach the community of Tobermory. It is home to 1,200 residents and has been called the freshwater scuba capital of the world. Tobermory sits on the spectacular Bruce Peninsula, dividing the waters of Lake Huron from Georgian Bay. The Bruce Peninsula is 100 kilometers long and 38 kilometers wide. It is part of the Niagara Escarpment and features rugged beaches, dense forests, and exposed cliff faces. And it is the site of Fathom 5's neighbor, Bruce Peninsula National Park, celebrating the unique geology of the area.
Bruce Peninsula National Park is all part of the Niagara Escarpment area, and the geology of the area is very unique. The rock that you see here formed many, many millions of years ago when this was a shallow saltwater sea. This part of the Earth was down around the equator at that time. And over many millennia, the continents have shifted to the north, and they're still moving to this day. And we are currently halfway between the equator and the North Pole. A number of people ask us what an escarpment is. Well, the escarpment is actually the uplifting of the land approximately 400 million years ago, and we're looking at the edge or the rim of it. So if you equate it to a dinosaur's backbone running all the way from southern Ontario right up to the tip of the Bruce Peninsula and then underwater, resurfacing on the islands and continuing till we get to Wisconsin. So that's basically what it is. It's the remains of all of the marine life with the sediments building on them and the pressures of over time building up to create the rock itself.
At the southern reaches of the Bruce Peninsula, we trace the contours of Lake Huron's eastern shoreline. Far below, Sauble Beach is a resort community, home to 2,000 people. A population that can soar to 100,000 in the heat of the summer. The beach has been attracting visitors for decades, and at 11 kilometers in length, is considered to be the second longest freshwater beach in the world. Further, the town of Southampton lies below. With fertile fields and fishing grounds surrounding the town, humans have been residing here for thousands of years. And just offshore, Chantry Island measures 81 hectares. It is the site of a bird sanctuary and a landmark light station. From 1848 to 1948, more than 100 maritime disasters were recorded here. In response, Chantry Island's light station was built in 1859. Like Cove Island at the entrance to Georgian Bay, the Chantry Island Light Station is one of the Great Lakes' imperial towers. It continues to guide mariners today. Further south, we get a bird's-eye view of the power sources fueling Ontario and reveal the town of Goderich's summer tradition, piping down the sun. South of Southampton on Lake Huron's eastern shoreline, the landscape changes. In the distance, the Bruce Nuclear Generating Station covers 2,300 acres. The site produces 6,300 megawatts of energy, more than a quarter of Ontario's energy demand each year. It is the largest operating nuclear facility in the world. And not far away, the rotating blades of the Huron wind farm line the horizon. These 1.8 megawatt turbines produce enough energy to power 3,000 Ontario homes. Further south, we reach the port community that claims the title, Canada's prettiest town. Goderich is steeped in history and beauty, built around its historic townhouse. On the waterfront, salt mining is one of the best-known industries. With more than 150 million tons of mineral extracted here. But Goderich's most famous feature lies far offshore. The town is said to be home to the world's most beautiful sunsets, a fact celebrated every summer by Maurice Wilkinson and the Celtic Blue Highlanders Pipe Band as they pipe down the sun.
My name is Maurice Wilkinson, and of Goderich, Ontario. Goderich is situated on Lake Huron. It's about 75 statute miles from Sarnia, 150 statute miles from Toronto. My father was on the CPR railway, and I came to Goderich, helped him move. I settled here in Goderich, married a girl from Goderich.
Wilkinson stayed and worked for decades at the local water treatment plant. Upon retirement, he embarked on a second career as a piper with the Celtic Blue Highlanders Pipe and Drum Band.
The Highlanders had started the year before I joined, 1997. and I joined in '99, and had a series of good pipe majors, good teaching. Now we've grown to about 12. We can field about 12 pipers and 3 snare drums, a bass drum, and a couple of tenor drums, and it rounds out a good band. I was 70 when I started playing, so they had quite a job to do. But I stuck with it, and they stuck with me. They've been very good to me in the band.
Every Friday in the summer months, the Celtic Blue Highlanders celebrate Lake Huron's world-famous sunsets with a ceremony they call Piping Down the Sun.
Yeah, the sunset, it's a really beautiful sunset most nights. Started in the, usually the first week in July, and we go through to the last week in August, and there are 8 nights that we pipe. We'd find out when the sun is going down over the lake, and we try to go on an hour before that for the people's enjoyment. So that means we have to be down to warm up the pipes at least a half an hour before we march on. So that's get the pipes in tune and get in unison and the drones tuned up.
In recent years, the ceremony has become so popular, the band has had to change locations. They now meet not far from the Lake Huron shore. Here, residents and tourists alike congregate, waiting for the sunset and the sounds of the Highlanders.
We march out and in a ranked file, and then form a circle, play for an hour, then we pick up a piece to play on, to march out with, and then we turn and march off.
For Wilkinson, the Highlanders have become like family.
Being in the band with me is just to being able to participate, and a lot of good friends. We're all a very easygoing band, and we have a lot of jocularity amongst us, all during the playing and during the practice. And we have good pipe majors. They're fair, strict, but they're fair, and good teachers. Everybody is very friendly, and it's just like my family now for me.
From the narrowing of Lake Superior in the heart of the Canadian Shield, to the incredible geological features of Georgian Bay, to the pristine beaches lining its eastern shoreline. Lake Huron is a contrast in incredible landscapes. With an archaeological timeline etched in remote rock faces. Symbols of human achievement and deadly conflict. And a lasting bond linking these waters with those who've settled here. Lake Huron is a vast maritime boundary. with mysteries that continue to be revealed. Here on the Edge of Canada.